Hi, my name is Jeff, and I'm high-functioning autistic. I want to talk today a little bit about what it means fundamentally to be autistic, what I believe that all autistic people, regardless of where you are in the spectrum, have fundamentally in their minds or in their brains that make us tick and make us work. The reason for making this video is so that we can try to, or I can try to help other people have better relationships with their wives and children, and even with yourself. If you're an autistic person yourself, you may not know some of the things that I seem to have figured out. Now, a little bit of the background. I'm 40 years old now, and I've been meditating for about 15 years. And I've spent as much time as 8 hours in a state of meditation before, staring at a wall, just so that I can get a fundamental, better understanding of myself as a person and release a lot of past traumas and things in my life, and to, as I said, better understand myself. Now, one of the things that I've discovered in analyzing myself through deep meditation is that I have a loop, a thought loop, a thought about a thought. I got my dog here. And in my thought loop, I have what I would refer to as a program. Now, everything in an autistic person's life is basically a ritual or a program or a system of rules. So, for example, I created a rule when I was very young that if somebody says hi to me, that I say hello back. All right, it makes sense. You say hi, I say hi back. And I've created rules that say when you pick up the phone, you start talking. And I created rules that say when you are, going to work, that you start working as soon as possible and you work as much as possible. And if somebody stops by, you say what you need to say and you get back to work as soon as possible. Now, for a regular person, this type of stuff just is common sense. But for me, I had to actually create rules for this. I had to actually create thoughts in my head, which became a procedural loop that allowed me to function correctly in the world, or function according to what we call neurotypicals, or the normal person in the world's rules, even though they're not rules necessarily. So one of the analogies or ways I've maybe discovered or theorized that this might work is, think of instincts. So if you were to take the human brain as a whole and then take a piece of it, which is the social structure instinct, and remove it, so that there's no instinct on how to socialize. Now, one of the ways that we can understand instincts better is by looking at animals. A cat seems to naturally have a hunting instinct. You put it outside, it prowls around, and it looks for animals to hunt. A mother has a natural nursing instinct, or instinct to take care of her young. And this is seen throughout the animal kingdom, and that's what she will lay down and allow her offspring to come up to her and nurse off of her. And no one had to actually teach that animal how to do that. Okay? As an autistic individual, I seem to, or I've appeared to, come into this world in somewhat of a black box. Okay, in which my instinct section of my brain was not there. So instead of having instincts, I had to learn everything, and often through the hard way of banging my head on the wall, doing something bad, and then having repercussions from it, and then creating a rule about that so that I could learn to function in the world correctly. Now, the thing is autistic people often have what we refer to as meltdowns, right? And that's where an autistic person will start rocking, will start stimming, will start ticking, will start not paying attention, will start making noises, and it can even go to the extreme of becoming nonverbal, not being able to speak. And to me, the fundamental reason why these things occur is because the rule set is contaminated. It has what I think of as bad rules, okay? So, for example, if I were to have, at a very young age in which this occurred, I would go up to my friends and tickle them at 4 years old. And I would tickle them in their abdomen with my hands because it made them laugh. And so I created a rule at this point, other kids like to be tickled because they laugh, and laughter is a good emotion. It makes me feel good. They seem to feel good. So I'm going to continue to go around and tickle everyone. Well, at the age of 5 years old, I remember staying in my driveway, the school bus coming up. I went up to my friend, tickled him, and he didn't laugh. At this point, he stepped back and said, "Hey, I don't like that." And I was devastated. I was destroyed because one of the rules that I made, which is to make people happy, you tickle them, which is very cute for a 4-year-old, suddenly wasn't cute as a 5-year-old. I was devastated. And what happened was I created a new rule. But instead of the rule being don't tickle other kids, because I had no adult around me that understood that I was autistic at the time to help me with this, I created a rule: don't interact with people at all. Because when you interact with people, you get hurt. And it makes me emotional to this day because I shut down socially because I did something to somebody to make them unhappy. And that made me so unhappy in myself that I stopped interacting with other children and I shut down. And that year in kindergarten, I was kicked out of school because of how angry I got, how upset I got, because my social interactions would never go well after that. I didn't know how to behave and how to act with other children. And this was devastating. And I went through my whole life, my whole school, my whole high school, not interacting with other people, holding my head down in shame because I didn't know how to interact, because I created a rule saying that if you do that, you will get hurt. Instead of the rule, just don't tickle kids and learn another way. But because I didn't understand I was autistic, my parents didn't understand I was autistic, no one could help me with this fundamental rule that I created in my head that ended up shutting me down socially. That took another 15 years, 20 years. Actually, I was like 28 years old until I started to come out of that one. So it's very important for parents to understand that their autistic children have a rule set, have a list of rules, how to behave in each situation that they're in their life. And if one of those rules is out of alignment with how reality actually is, or is out of alignment with how society actually expects people to behave, then what will happen is that child will shut down. That child will start rocking in their chair. That child could become nonverbal. That child could stop interacting entirely with other people and instead just line things up on the floor, play with their computer, because you see, a computer always listens to you, unless it crashes, but for the most part, it always listens to you. Your iPad always listens to you, and it doesn't snap back at you because you do something wrong. When you line up your little trains or your little toys as a little boy, they line up, and they don't bark back at you. So we live by rules. And when people start understanding and parents start understanding that we have rules, that we have a loop, a thought loop, almost like a computer program that we run through, calculating on how to behave in this world, on what to do, and how to act, then we can start helping artistic children in a more fundamental way. So what I say to parents is, ask your children questions of what the rules are. When your child gets upset because you take a different route to school than the child's normally used to, and they start freaking out, ask them why it's important to take the same route every day. And then see if you can change the rule as the parent in a more fundamental way. For example, let's take a new route because it's more scenic. Let's take a new route because we get to see new things. Let's take a new route because let's use a stopwatch and time it, and maybe it'll be faster, maybe it'll be slower, and we can actually take a scientific approach to taking a route to school. Because these types of logical thoughts, or these types of logical expressions, or these types of logical ways of being, ways of thinking, can help the autistic child expand the rule set to a more general rule set that also doesn't violate any fundamental rules of society or doesn't violate any fundamental rules of reality, so that the child doesn't get shut down, doesn't get attacked, doesn't get out of alignment with himself, so that he can operate fully, functionally, in the environment that he's in and happily. I'm 40 years old now, and I finally have achieved this state of being in which my general rule set has been simplified down from millions of rules to thousands of rules. So I still struggle at times because there may be a situation socially, a situation environmentally, in which I don't have a rule set for, and that can cause me stress and anxiety. But then I have some simple programs in my head, some simple rules that I can relax into to allow myself to be in a state of being that allows myself to be in that environment without hurting anyone, without upsetting anyone, and without thinking that other people think that I'm weird or that I'm odd or that I'm different. But our children who are 10 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, because autistic people often take a lot longer to grow up, may not have this yet. And that's why it's important as parents to understand that we operate on rules. Understand what your children's rules are, and you will make a better child. Ask them what their rules are, and you may be surprised as they start listing them off for you. And then work on the rules in this way. Help generalize the rules to expand them without violating any social structures or otherwise, so that they don't get hurt emotionally or physically in this world. And you will have a happy autistic child. Thank you.